Perfect. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Super excited for the webinar today. I'll give a quick intro about myself and the organization that I run. And then you'll hear about this incredible organization that we're here to talk about. So I'm Preeti Adhikary. Currently, I'm involved in two organizations, two roles. So one is, you can see behind me the Great Nepali Diaspora. Basically, it's a network of professional Nepalis all over the world. I started it 3.5 years ago. It has members from students all the way to retirees, and it's all over the world. So an incredible network of global Nepalis. Apart from that, I'm also a general partner of Momo VC, which is a US-based venture capital fund. I think my other general partner from the fund, Sajjan, should also be on the call. But we help entrepreneurs from underrepresented founders. In terms of the Great Nepali Diaspora, we've done a lot of work to uplift, the community of Nepalis all over the world. We've done a lot of work to also support the work that other organizations are doing in terms of not just Nepalis, but in terms of doing incredible work to, uplift whether it's students or other sort of groups, really looking at people that are investing in education, people that are making an impact. So I'm thrilled to really be hosting a webinar today with Second Chance. I think it's from the moment I heard about this organization, I've been so impressed and so, I think, touched by the incredible work that's gone, behind the scenes and the big numbers that are that had the or that the organization has been able to really make an impact to. Thank you everybody from joining from all over the world. We're thrilled to have you here. Just in terms of before I pass it to the Second Chance team, make sure that let's make sure that the webinar is engaging. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can put it on the chat, and as when time permits, the team is going to take those questions. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Joan Liu, who's the founder of Second Chance. She'll talk more about the organization and the work that's been done so far. So let's give her a warm welcome. Joan?
Preeti, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for bringing the Nepali community to this webinar. And everybody, I want to thank you for sharing the next hour 15 minutes with us. Everybody in the room, I just want to let you know there are some folks here who are students. So if you're here, you care about international education or you are seeking it. There are some parents in the room. You yourselves have seen the process of your children trying to go overseas, and so you know the benefit of a global education. There's press in the room. So if you covered this and you took the pictures, wrote the articles, amplified the student voices, I know Eric Hoover is in the room. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the work that you did in 2018. I think it's a particularly important moment to be talking about international education. My name is Joan Liu, as Preeti said, and I sit at the crossroads of access to higher education, global mobility, and students who are enormously talented who are trying to seek global social and economic opportunity and mobility. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to share your time with us today and to go with us on a little bit of a journey. What we're going to do in the next hour is I'm going to share the story with you of what happened in 2018, which some of you are familiar with, some of you are not. And we're going to hear from two students who are part of that crisis. And then we are going to talk a little bit about what we do at Second Chance and particularly why it's so important in the geopolitical moment we are all living in. And as you can hear from my voice, I'm American. But as you can see from how I look, I'm Taiwanese. My parents are immigrants to the United States, and I myself am the beneficiary of an overseas education, if you will. So let me start And I'm going to share some slides here. And I would like us to all go back in time a bit. And those of you who are from 2018, welcome, because you are the reason why we exist. The 60 students that we met in 2018 from Nepal are the reason why Second Chance exists. For those of you who have never been to Nepal, or this is your first touch point, I wanted to put a map up because sometimes when I speak to audiences, people don't know where Nepal is. And Nepal is in Southeast Asia, as you can see, a tiny little landlocked country. And I want to start from the perspective of a student that we met. His name is Roman. Roman, if you're on this call, you can say hi in the chat. And Roman is the student on the right. I want you all to think about something that you want in your life that you feel would change your life. Like the one thing that you feel like if you had would be the thing that would transform your life. Okay, the delta, if you will. So for Roman, when he was younger, the one thing that he felt that was going to change his life was an overseas education. To get an overseas education in Nepal is no small feat, okay, as an international student. And so what did Roman have to do? Roman had to, first, he needed to learn English. He needed to be able to be proficient in academic English and to be at an extremely high level in regards to his English. Many students who don't have English available in their schools are learning English outside of their schools. He has to take this test called the SAT, which is this US-centric test that is a very difficult test to navigate, even for Americans. He has to teach his teachers and his principal this thing called the recommendation, because in the United States, we require, as part of our admissions process, third-party endorsement. Well, if you're a Nepali teacher and you're speaking in Nepali and you don't know English and you've never written a recommendation before, you can understand how difficult this would be as a task that a student has asked you to do. Okay, so students are often the ones in Nepal leading teachers and their principals through this process. It's not the other way around. He has to find resources. He's going to talk to other students, senior students who have gone through this process before, because it's not like he has a system where he can actually access like college counselors. Many of us on this call are college counselors, where he can access college counselors and say, what do I do? So he uses a really important resource in Nepal called Education USA. There are 470 Education USA offices around the world that they run through the State Department in the United States. But as you all know, this program is shrinking at this point in time. So this is what Roman does to be able to apply to the United States. What Roman doesn't know is that he is entering the admissions Hunger Games. To be able to apply to the United States and get a full scholarship, which is what he needed, less than 1% of the market in the United States, less than 1% of the 4,000 schools that are in the United States offer a full tuition, housing, room and board scholarship. And of those schools, of that 1%, you have a less than 1% chance of getting into those schools. It is a less than 1% admit rate. And so it is enormously difficult for a student to be able to go up against a 99% rejection rate and make it. Okay, but lo and behold, Roman does. And Roman gets a full ride at the University of Texas at Tyler. Many of you have heard about the University of Texas at Austin. You haven't heard of the University of Texas at Tyler, but this is what Roman has. Roman gets the University of Texas at Tyler, and he gets a full ride scholarship. And so he is overjoyed. He tells his family, he tells his village. His parents are really proud of him. He's the first person in his family to go overseas. He's super excited about this. And then in April, after the process is done, okay, so now we're in a point of time where the US process has finished. Okay, people are in the middle of their visas. Roman gets a letter that says he no longer has this scholarship. So Roman and everything that he has put into his future, it's now gone. And this ended up being a huge issue. Like, as you can see, this made national news because the University of Texas at Tyler made a budgeting error, and what they decided to do, instead of taking the scholarship away from 60 Americans who would have had access to legal services, was to take it away from 60 kids halfway around the world in Southeast Asia who had no money and resources or access to a legal situation to be able to rectify this. Roman did nothing wrong. Um, and all of these students, it was not their fault. And Roman became what none of us want to become, which is he became the casualty of someone else's mistake. And so he lands on, this is actually in a Nepali newspaper. He lands on the front page of the Nepali newspaper. And basically, as you can see, this is a catastrophe at this point. And it doesn't just happen to Roman, it happens to Roshan, who is sitting in another part of Nepal, who is a top student as well. And it happens to Rupesh, who has scored in the top 1% of the national exam and gets into the Institute of Engineering on a full scholarship, but turns it down because he wants to be able to go to the University of Tyler. So now here's a student who had the opportunity to get a full scholarship in Nepal and a full scholarship in the United States, and now has no future. It happens to Nielsen, who said, as you can see here, that this was the worst feeling that he ever felt in his entire life. He said, I had no option, as the University of Texas was my final choice. This is Krishna Sharma. Krishna is the son of two farmers. And at the time that we met Krishna he did not have the resources to buy the very shoes that he had. And I want you to take a moment and look at this picture, because I think this picture is so, when I look at this picture and I see the depth in Krishna's eyes and what Krishna must have felt when he got the news. I mean, Krishna has shared that this news was so devastating that he began to go to a really dark place. And this was not just Krishna, it was 60 students all across Nepal, in different parts of Nepal. But the one thing that they had in common was that they were extremely talented, because to be able to get a full scholarship, I mean, all of them scored 1450 and above. You need to be that level of talent and that level of leadership to be able to get that scholarship. And all of them were also first gen. So many of these students were the first in their families to be able to go to college, and many of them were learning English for the first time. Their parents did not speak English, and they were all coming from under-resourced households. So we're sitting here in Southeast Asia, and we're looking at this situation, and we think to ourselves, gosh, somebody should really be doing something about this. But these kids, there's nowhere the students can actually go. There's no some international organization that a kid can go to, or there's no lawyers, international lawyers that are available so that this can be rectified and there can be some sort of class action lawsuit. And so what students did was they went to Education USA in Nepal, and they asked for support. And there was an Education USA advisor at Education USA at the time. Her name is Selena Mala. And Selena Mala had been herself the recipient of a full scholarship when she herself went to the United States. And so she knew, she had the lived experience of somebody who had been able to get to the United States, and she could see for herself how much this could change somebody's life. And so what Selena Mala did was, Selena then decided to write a huge email to the international community. So I woke up to basically a social media post that says, hey, if there's anybody out there who has like a last minute scholarship, or anybody has any ideas on how we can rectify this situation, can anybody please help us? Okay. And this must have reached at least, 2,000, 3,000 people. And so several of us in Southeast Asia started to band together and build a team. As you can see, the team is half Nepali and half outside of Nepal. And we began to think about, well, what can we do to rectify the situation? Like, what is, and the question that guided us was like, what is one small thing we can do to move this situation? Because when I say that we really did not know what we were doing, like, we had no idea how to, nobody is doing anything in the post April 1st space. Everything is done by then. So, like, how do you solve a situation that requires you to play in a space or navigate a space that people are, it's basically game over? And so we started to think, what can we do? Well, one of us said, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to press. And so she did. And then another person said, okay, I'm going to build a website. And so they built a website. And then another person said, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to everybody who is like our US contacts. And we must have sent our first email to like 1,500 people in the United States. And then we started to go all around the world. Like, we started to really push this. We did a Twitter storm with the kids. They tweeted a very famous reporter, Eric Hoover, who I mentioned earlier. And Eric woke up to like 40 tweets from all these Nepali kids. And then he decided to amplify their stories and do a couple of newspaper articles on this. And then I called my brother, and my brother said, well, you're going to need to get something called Zoom. I had never even heard of Zoom before. And so we decided, okay, we're going to find these students, verify these students, vet the kids, and then work with them remotely. And so that's what you see here. And slowly, people started to come forward. It was an amazing thing because higher ed institutions that did not cause this problem were looking as bystanders and decided that they were going to come forward to help this problem. And so the first school that came forward was SUNY Korea. These 3 students were the first 3 students of this cohort that then went and took a courageous risk to go to South Korea, a country that they were not planning on going to at all. But off they went. And that is Roshan, the student that you saw in the newspaper article. And that is Nielsen, the student who was in the previous slide. And Rupesh, who you also saw on the front of the newspaper. Wendy Beckmeyer saw one of Eric Hoover's articles, and she went to her board and she said, what can we do? And a board member said, well, we don't really give full scholarships. But then another board member said, well, I will sponsor the student for housing and for living, and then we will give him a full tuition, a scholarship. And so 28 students applied, and Rupesh then ended up going to Robert Morris University in Pennsylvania. Colleges from around the world started to come forward. United States colleges started to come forward. As you can see here, like Robert Morris University, College of Idaho took 3 students, and students started to get placed. And about halfway through, so now we're kind of like in May, June, half the cohort was seated, and they were seated at different places in the world: Germany, Canada, the United States, South Korea. And the result in the end, and I'm going to fast forward here, was that in the end, we did find all 60 students. 56 students were seated with a full scholarship. 54 did end up getting the visa. There were 2 students who didn't get the visa despite several tries. And 3 years ago, Roman graduated from the University of Denver with honors in chemistry. Roshan and Nielsen, and that's Kushal, they went to SUNY Korea. Nielsen is now at Texas A&M doing a PhD in data science. And Roshan is now a software engineer at Amazon in Seattle. Shashwat, that's you, from Central Michigan. That's a graduation picture. I love that picture. Okay, Krishna Sharma. So Krishna, a gentleman named Fred, who was at the Northwestern University of Qatar, went to his VP of enrollment and said, what can we do? And his VP of enrollment said, I think we could take 2 students. And so Krishna was one of them. And Krishna went, and he became a wildcat. He also became the first student body president from Nepal at Northwestern University of Qatar. And today, Krishna is working at a policy institute in Qatar, and he is a journalist, and he writes about politics, democratic backsliding, polarization, and revolutionary activity. And one of his last articles was just about what happened in Nepal recently. And so I'd like to hand the mic over to Krishna. And Krishna, we'd love to hear from you about how you're doing, what the experience has been for you. We are so proud of you for making such an enormous contribution to helping us all understand politics in the world. And I'm just over the moon about where you're at. Thank you, Krishna, for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Namaste to the great Nepali diaspora team and to all of my original Tyler Pirits, as we called it back then. And hello to everyone else around the world. My name is Krishna Sharma, and I come from a small southern town in Nepal called Razar. Uh, well, I want to go back to the start. You've heard a bit of it, but one of the happiest days of my life was back in November 2017 when I got an admissions offer from the University of Texas at Tyler with a full ride presidential scholarship to study computer science. It was a moment of pride, of disbelief, and a lot of relief. In my father's absence, my mom had raised me and my sister mostly by herself through rearing a buffalo and tending to the fields. My family did not have the means to fund my education. Full scholarship was my only path to college in America, and now I had it. This was a big accomplishment for someone like me and for a family like ours. A gaon ko keta or a village boy would go to America and study on a full scholarship. It made us happy, of course, but also gave hope to many other students who were hardworking and gifted but financially insecure. And so they did not know if they should risk applying to American colleges. In my head, I started thinking about finally getting a chance to give my mom a taste of a good life. After all, she had struggled a major part of her life at the hands of my abusive and alcoholic father. Soon enough, I started teaching science and math at a local school to earn money for the trip um, and for the visa, etc. You could say that mentally I was already in Texas. However, as fate would have it, one of the saddest days of my life came only a few months later, on April 13, 2018, which was incidentally the Nepali New Year's Eve. An email from UT Tyler said that my scholarship was just being taken away because of extraordinary demand and budget shortfall. After reading it, I just sat in my bed and canceled all New Year's plans. Next morning, one of my friends had reached out to me, and I vividly remember this. And she asked if I had been impacted by the Tyler decision, which is now making rounds on Facebook, I guess. I remember then, I had just woken up. I remember hoping that the email I saw the night before was just a dream. It was not. My scholarship was indeed taken away from me. For days, I could not share this with anyone. I did not know how to react to such a loss. Um, I had given up my seat at the Institute of Engineering, or IOE, which is the premier engineering institution in Nepal, and now there was no chance to ever get it back. Further, since I had received the scholarship back in November, I had not applied to many other programs where I otherwise might have had a chance to get in on a scholarship. Every application could have cost more money that I did not have, that my family did not have, that I could not have really borrowed from anyone because no one would have trusted us with that kind of money. So I chose not to apply to any more after I had a full ride scholarship. And now I did not have it. I slowly began to lose all hope. I don't know yet, and I think I went into depression. And finally, when my mom started to feel something was up, she kind of interrogated me, and I had to tell her. It's still hard to say it, but after days had passed, I slowly fell further into depression and I thought about killing myself because I could never see a way that I could get out of it, that my family could get out of it. Soon, though, a couple of other students, including Shashwat, I think, that had been impacted, reached out to me. They had informed me that there was a Facebook group and asked me to join. Um, and I did. I was back in my hometown, but the others went to the U.S. Education Foundation, or USEF, in Kathmandu and met Selena Mala and others, and I think asked for help. Um, I was in my town, and I did not really think, and I did not really buy into anyone really helping us. I mean, why would anyone come to help us? Why? Like, I did not have anything to give them. And all my life in Nepal, like, if you go to any governmental agency, if you go anywhere, ask anyone for help, the only way you're gonna get help is if you give money to someone, if you bribe someone, and that's when they will help you. Otherwise, they won't. So I did not believe that some strangers somehow wanted to help us. Um, and that's what I guess, like, things were moving in Kathmandu. I did not know how they were moving. Um, but one day, Joan Ma'am and team asked us for documents to prove that we had, in fact, been impacted by the UT Tyler scholarship cancellation. And that's when I found out, oh, wow, I saw only a few kids in the Facebook group, but now there's about 60 students that are impacted. Then I lost hope even more because I was like, if there were like 10 people that were impacted, maybe they could have sort of negotiated with someone and maybe found us something. Um, but no, then I had lost all hopes. But miraculously, someone got placed. And I think it was Sunni Korea. And then I was like, what is happening? People are actually getting placed. Like, is this actually happening? Anyway, miraculously, through all their efforts, and even though I still did not believe that this was going to happen for me, on May 16 that year, 2018, I got placed into NUQ to study journalism and strategic communication. Um, and right after getting there, I also um, found a job with the same admissions department that had helped me get there. I had to take a loan of about $2,000 just for my airfare, um, and visa costs and other costs, housing deposits. And my mom was really worried that we were not going to be able to pay it back. But with that job, I was able to slowly pay back that money. But most importantly, I was able to pursue my interest in politics and journalism, not computer science that I was going to study if I had gone to Tyler. Um, Among other things, based on my first year academic performance, I received a full merit scholarship for the next 3 years. Um, I was the first South Asian to become the student government president at Northwestern. I became managing editor for the university newspaper, guiding about 10 staff reporters at a time. I was able to publish at Al Jazeera. I don't know how many of you read it on a regular basis. Sometimes it's the best source for, especially for Middle Eastern news. I interned at the Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting, and I was able to publish 4 papers in top journals in media politics and psychology during my undergraduate, and presented another 10 papers or so at top conferences in my field, one of which even won a Best Paper Award and $1,000 prize at a top American conference. Eventually, I graduated magna cum laude and received the Best Student Award in the Journalism and Strategic Communication department at Northwestern. That was 3.5 years ago. Now I'm working as a program coordinator at a research institute inside Northwestern Qatar, where I manage its finances, event planning and organization, and the research administration work at the institute. But most of all, I'm proud that I get to now guide undergraduate students that are advanced and come to us as fellows on research projects. The biggest of it all, though, I think, is that now I built a house for my family in my small town, and I got married last year. My dad lives with my mom now, and miraculously, and he has seen so much. It's hard to believe. Um, but when I think about all of this, I really have to say, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Um, I think if there's any parallel universe, And if somebody's tried, and if I've lost this scholarship, and even if a team came and tried, I think in none of those other universes I'm here at this place that I'm today. None of this would have been possible without the help of Joan Ma'am, without the help of Selena Mala, and without the help of the Second Chance team, the original Second Chance team. Um, in fact, I really want to say this. In fact, I may not have been alive today if it wasn't for this team. I don't believe I would have made it through. And I know there are so many other stories like this. I realize now that I've forgotten most others. I guess the ones that remember it all are the ones that have heard it all over and over again and acted to help us. Again, is Joan Ma'am, Selena Ma'am, and the rest of the Second Sense team. So today, I would really appreciate if those of you who can, who are able, could you please invest in Second Chance for the future of kids that will be like us today, that will pay it forward, and that will make the world a better place. I plan to do this myself, and I want to call on you all to do it too, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. I'm trying not to cry, Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for being, um, all of you who are part of that whole cohort. You're the reason why we exist. So thank you so much, for being who you are and being so courageous. Thank you for being so courageous. It is so courageous to go to a country that's not your own and study it in a language that's not your own. Um, Thank you for being who you guys are. Uh, um, Krishna, thank you. Sorry, I'm at a loss for, I'm at a loss for words.
I think he's made
Thank you.
everybody cry, Joan.
It's so crazy because you know what? When we went back to Nepal, Krishna, I don't know if you remember this. We went back to Nepal and you stood up and shared your story in front of all the kids at Education USA, and all of us just started bawling. Like we just all started crying. I feel it's another, so it was like a reunion moment. So Krishna, thank you. And thank you for the contribution that you made to NUQ, and thank you for your leadership at NUQ. And thank you for being an inspiration to all of us. Students who are second chance kids 2019 to 2025, the part of the reason why we were able to work with you was because we met students like Krishna in 2018. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist. So, Krishna, we're going to pass the baton to Shashwat. And Shashwat, would you mind taking the mic now? Thank
Can
you,
you hear me?
Krishna.
Can you
Dhanyavad.
hear, can you hear me all right? Can you hear me all right? Or
Oh, you're good.
well, I guess it's going to be difficult to follow up to that, but good morning and good evening, everyone. I'm Sashwat, and I'm currently a PhD candidate working in material science and biomechanics at Villanova University. Thank you so much for giving your time to hear our story. My story is the story of what happens when someone decides to do something selfless and ask themselves, if not me, who? If not now, when? I wish there was a simulator of some sorts that could show how different our lives would have turned out if it weren't for Miss Liu and her team. Would I turn out to be the same person I am today that I'm so proud of, or would I be unmotivated and in despair? Like most in our group, on April 13th, I got the dreaded email from UT Tyler on the eve of Nepali New Year's. I was in the room blankly staring at my phone, not knowing whether to scream or cry at a few sentences that were so easily sent from the other side of the world. I remember I didn't tell my parents about the scholarship cancellation for 10 whole days, in the faintest hope that this had to be some sort of April Fool's prank. But a follow up email never really came. No matter how many times I checked my email, no matter how many times I double checked all the application materials, there was no indication that it was really my fault. I literally had my I-20 with me that clearly showed the scholarship amount. How can a US university not know basic accounting that they overshot the scholarship budget? I was deep into my denial stage. After going through the multiple cycles of the remaining four stages, I came to know I was not the only one. The 60 of us were just spreadsheets on someone's desk. But for us, it was our future. And for most of us, our family's future on the line. But there was a divine intervention. I am probably the biggest atheist that exists, but how do you justify a random person who we didn't even know existed until a few weeks earlier showing up to help a bunch of 18-year-old Nepali kids on the other side of the world? This is probably the closest I will ever come to believing that a higher power exists. And how can you not? How can you not believe in God when people like Miss Liu and her team exist? Her team work day and night on top of their full-time jobs just to increase the chances of getting some of us an academic home. This was not their mess to clean. They taught me what responsibility looks like when no one is watching and when you gain absolutely nothing from it. With their help, I, along with Ankrit, was selected by Miss Megan Dorr and Central Michigan University on a full ride scholarship. There, I transitioned from a teen to an adult. I had so many firsts at CMU. I experienced my first snow. I learned how to walk when it's snowing so that I wouldn't break my bones. Got my first real job. Started a registered student organization. Co authored 5 peer reviewed journal articles. Received the Outstanding Engineering Student of the Year in the state of Michigan. Got a National Science Foundation grant for my internships. So many firsts. Not because I was special, but Miss Megan, CMU, Miss Liu, and her team believed I could be. I know Miss Megan is on this call and this is super random, but I still remember the day she took Ankit and I to Grand Rapids for soul food. 7 years later, that soul food in Grand Rapids, Michigan is still the best soul food that I've ever had. Subsequently, in 2022, I graduated with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from CMU, and I then continued to pursue my research and completed my master's as well. A total of 6 years at CMU. Through this entire experience, I learned a new term, paying it forward. I knew about paying it back, but paying it forward meant something completely different. It taught me that giving back isn't about how big an impact you can make. It's about remembering what it felt like to need someone to show up. To say that they changed my life is an understatement. I am deeply grateful for their blind faith in me, and I'm even more grateful for making it possible for me to study in the US and for everything that decision enabled me to do. Because of that opportunity, I was able to give back and pay it forward. I was able to go back to Yusuf and lead Get Inspired sessions, and it still feels surreal to say that because I still remember sitting in those same seat at Yusuf as a kid, intimidated by Miss Selena Mala, who was and still is absolutely amazing. Second, simply because I was able to work an on-campus job and earn in dollars, I was able to help a local library in Kathmandu buy books that they otherwise could not have afforded. And I was also able to bring joy to my family by contributing in whatever small ways I could during medical emergencies or rituals that had to be done. But this is the moment that I'm the proudest of all. Being chosen to speak at this webinar to represent Second Chance with Krishna out of the 54 students who benefited from this is a feeling that I truly cannot describe right now. I only hope that the way that I've lived my life since then honors the faith that was placed in me. To Miss Liu, her team, to Miss Megan Dorr and CMU, to my family, and to all the people that I've been able to help, not because I was asked to, but because one person wants to ask a different question. What is the one small thing we can do to move this forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Shashwat. Shashwat, I remember meeting you in Nepal, and one of the things, I know your mom is on this call, and I just want to say in front of your mom, I remember we were all trying to get into this small room that, well, Selena had organized for us to be in, and we were all crushed in there. And I remember you were sitting in the front and you gave your seat up for other kids and you went to go sit all the way in the back. And I just thought, that is leadership. And Sashwat, you have been such a leader to the Nepali cohort, like the unofficial leader in a sense, one of the unofficial leaders. And I just want to say thank you so much for letting us know how well you're doing, for the contributions that you made at Central Michigan. And I just want to share one thing, which is that Central Michigan had not done a full scholarship before you and Ankrit, and now Central Michigan has a full scholarship in place. So I think one of the great things that came out of, there were 25 institutions that had never done a full scholarship before, and some of those institutions, as a result, then decided to do it afterwards because they could see the benefit of the leadership that they had on campus. And so one of the things I want to really make clear is sometimes, and counselors on the call, you all will know this. Sometimes when we talk about full scholarships, we almost talk about it like it's a charity situation. Oh, this kid was given a full scholarship. But in reality, a student earned that, and the university is wise in investing in that level of talent on their campus, because the number of lives that Shashwat has touched and the number of lives that Krishna has touched is extraordinary. So, Shashwat, thank you so much for your leadership, which I saw then and which I now see is just as clear as today. And thank you to your mom, too. Huge thank you to your mom. Miss Maharjan, I know you're on this call. You run a nonprofit yourself, so thank you for being on this call. As you can see in the chat, there are some folks who are, if you're an admissions officer who admitted a student, please will you identify yourself, because there are kids here who knew that you were going to be on the call. Like Lynn Larson from UT Arlington, I think that you're on this call. JP Yates, I see you on this call. You were at University of Akron. You created a scholarship for the very first time by piecing it together. And I can see that Yuvraj is here too. So please identify yourself so that students can say hello to you. And while you two are on the call, if you are a 2018 student, can you share with us where you went to school, and if you're able to, what you're doing now? If you're part of the original 2018 cohort, please feel free to share that with us if you haven't already. I think some of you already have. And if you are from 2019 to 2025, can you share where you landed so that the 2018 kids can see the pathway that they made and the lives that they impacted after they went? We would really love for everybody here who is an alumni to share just where they're at. Okay, so if you're in Hong Kong, state where you're at. Hi, Arcana, nice to see you here. Roman, nice to see you here. I think that Marjorie Smith is also on this call. She is the one who went to her VP and said, please, can we take one? And University of Denver had not done a full before. So Shashwat, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's turn the page a little bit, and everybody, please take a look at the chat while let me just reshare my screen. Krishna, Shashwat, thank you. Dhanyavada. Yes, so 2018, where did you go to the university? What are you up to now? Please share. And please take a look at all the students in the room whose lives you impacted because of the situation that you went through and the courage that you had. I just like to, I did this very randomly. I went through last night and just kind of looked to see where everybody, some students were at, just because I mean, we're very close to the situation, but some of you might be hearing about the situation for the first time. All of the students graduated from their respective institutions, and they're now in different fields. So for example, Roman is now at the UC Irvine doing sustainable chemistry. So we have some students from the 2018 cohort who are now in grad school. We have some students who are doing engineering. This is Ishwar Giri, who went to school at, now it was Jacobs University, then it's Constructor University now. As you can see here, he is here in Germany in engineering. We have some students who are in social health, and for example, Ajaswi, who was one of the very first students that we met, she is in nursing. She went to the University of Kentucky. The University of Kentucky had not done a full before. Kundan, I know TCU, Texas Christian University, thank you for being here. We have two students, Assem and Vanessa, Assem from Kazakhstan and Vanessa from Rwanda, who just went to TCU because TCU became a partner institution. They are now an official partner with us at Second Chance, and they were one of the original schools that took a student. Here's Kundan. Kundan, we've got some students who are in business analytics from the 2018 cohort. Another student from the 2018 cohort, Sidikshia, who got a full scholarship at Syracuse. Syracuse had not done a full scholarship before, and in this manner at that late date. They have a couple, but and I think Jen Matthews, I think you're on the call, so thank you very much for what you did for Sidikshia. And Sidikshia, if you're here, we'd love to hear how you're doing. I know that you were in, I think somebody told me you were in fintech for a while, and now it looks like you're doing engineering from your LinkedIn profile. So counselors, if you're here and you're like, okay, gosh, what can I take away from this? Because I am looking at trying to seat my kids with a full scholarship this year, and I don't know what's happening. And like, look at what just happened this morning with all the visas in the United States. Here's what we learned as a team. And I just want to kind of share this as just a sort of like informational, which is that what I didn't know, I had been a counselor for 20 years, and what I didn't know was that there was an opportunity after April 1st. There was still a chance after April 1st. There was a post-game space, if you will. I could see also, we could see, all of us in the Nepal Justice League could see there was an appetite for students who were just had enormous leadership. I mean, you can see the leadership that like Shashwat and Krishna and all the other students bring to their campuses, and that this is so beneficial and contributory towards a global education that so many institutions say that they want. The other biggest thing that we learned, and I would really like to share this with you, particularly if you are just focused on like one country, and that most of the time we are focused on the United States for full scholarships, which is fine. But in this particular political moment, this geopolitical moment that we are sitting in, what we learned in 2018, when students are able to look at multiple countries so that they can have global economic, I mean, you just heard from Krishna and like what he has been able to do by going to the Middle East. I mean, this is not a country, Qatar was not anywhere on Krishna's mind when he was applying to overseas. Students who can geo-swerve, you can gain global social and economic opportunity. And I'm just going to call out a student here. It's one of our students from Tanzania who let me know that in Tanzania, if you graduate and you are a engineer / computer scientist, that you can expect something like 12,000 USD. However, if you go to Hong Kong, which is where the student is now studying, you can make 4 or 5 times that much. That is global social and economic opportunity for a student. And so we would really love to, I mean, if there's one thing that you're taking away from this as a counselor, it is to be global when helping students construct lists for trying to find economic opportunity outside an emerging economy. One thing that I feel very strongly about is that, and one of the reasons why we then decided to launch Second Chance as a nonprofit, I mean, is because I just don't believe that education should only be for people who are extremely wealthy, who have enormous resources, who are also privy to incredible information. I feel education should be something that should benefit everyone. It should benefit everyone. It should be a social good that you can have even at the last minute. You can get a social good at a hospital. It's called the emergency room. Like, you can get healthcare at the last minute. You can get housing at the last minute. In the United States, you can get employee benefits at the last minute. Why can we not have education at the last minute for some of the best talent in the world? It doesn't make any sense to me. So one of the reasons why we have Second Chance, and as you noted, as you can see, it's not Second Chance at the United States, it's Second Chance at Higher Education. That's actually the name of our nonprofit, Second Chance at Higher Ed. We want a mechanism. We are first in category. We are trying to build a new paradigm for admissions. And what we want to do is we want to take some of the world's talent, leadership. We don't want it to be left behind. And so what we do is we work only in the post-admissions space. Students who apply to the United States and they didn't know that there was anything else in the world that they could apply to get nominated to us. We will throw the nomination link, if you're a counselor, into, and it's also on our website, nominate a student who's really deserving. Like let's say a typical student who comes to us is a student who's applied to the United States. They don't have a viable financial aid offer by April 1st. They get nominated to us. And then what we try to do is we try to seat them somewhere else in the world or to some of the institutions in the United States that are still looking for students. We'll put aside a full scholarship for a student. And so we work across the Middle East. We work across Asia. We have partnerships in Hong Kong, South Korea, Qatar, Canada, the United States. We are working on partnerships globally so that we can have students who then can go to higher ed, still access higher ed with a full scholarship after April 1st, a time when typically everybody thinks that there's nothing available. That's what we try to do. We're trying to be like almost like an emergency room, if you will. We are interventionist. We are not preventative in the sense that we are not solving a huge systemic problem that exists all around the world in regards to timelines and students. We are kind of like, and so for that reason, we tend to work with some very vulnerable students around the world. These are, as you can see, we've worked with 223 students across a number of countries. You can see this on the map. You can see the big red dot in Nepal because a good third of our students have come from Nepal, I would say. And Nepal is, I know that, Preeti, there's a lot of folks from your network here. Nepal is our heart. It's our heartbeat. It's always going to be the reason why we exist, and it's our origin story. And because of that, we have been able to then expand out of Southeast Asia, and now we are working and supporting students in the Middle East, in South America, in the Caribbean, in Sub-Saharan Africa. And so we are country agnostic. Our nomination criteria are basically, and you can attend one of our nomination webinars, which will be coming up in the next couple of months. We're looking for talent, leadership, impact, essentially. And cohorts, if you are still sharing, please feel free to share your name, your country, where you are now. So just a couple of things that we've done. For example, we have a partnership with Georgetown University of Qatar, and in particular, Palestinians. And so we have supported a couple of Palestinian students from Gaza and the West Bank to go to GUQ. We're really thankful to GUQ for this partnership. As you can see, we have a lot of students in Hong Kong. This was taken 2 years ago. We have more students now. And in that picture, you can see Nepali students. You can also see students from Tanzania, Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, students from Zimbabwe, Zambia, Brazil, Turkey. We have worked with a number of refugees from Ukraine, from Syria, from Afghanistan. We worked recently with a Rohingya scholar. South Sudan, this was a student who had applied in 2020 during COVID from Kakuma refugee camp. He had gotten into UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley has no aid for international students. Although after this case, now they do. Now they have a couple of scholarships for students in crisis and in war zones. This is Nhial Deng. Nhial Deng, we helped get to, well, we second chanced him, and he ended up at Huron University. And when I'm talking about leadership, I am really talking about leadership, because this is a student who went on to talk about refugee communities with CNN. He has spoken at the United Nations. He won the equivalent of the Student Nobel Prize. Here he is standing with former President Clinton out of 4,000 entries for his refugee activism. I'm speeding up a little bit because I noticed that we're getting close to the hour, but I just wanted to say that I have an ask of this community, which is, if you are an alumni and you were the beneficiary of Second Chance or the Nepal Justice League, we would like to ask you to invest to donate to students who are just like you, but who are younger than you. And if you are somebody here who believes in education and you are older and you have means and you want a mechanism in this world, you want a mechanism that allows us to build a new paradigm for admissions, please can you consider investing in what we do? So for example, $1,000 will help us get a kid from Uganda to Hong Kong on a flight. You know, we always every year have difficulty with indirect costs, and we're scrambling around at the last minute for flights and like visas and like SEVIS fees and like all this kind of stuff. And so if you're in a position where you'd like to do that for a student, we would welcome that. You know, or if there's something that you'd like to do that's larger than that, like we would welcome, particularly in a year like this, as we 2018, by the way, was the same administration in the United States. This is going to go on for some while, where we are in this geopolitical moment. If you want to do something, you want to help us build a mechanism so that we can help more students, you know, we would really welcome your support. We would welcome your help. Thank you for letting us ask you this. I feel I have to ask this on the part of the students that we're working with. And I just want to say, finally, thank you to all of you who are here today, who believe in international education, who believe in like a global community, and who want to see that for the world. Thank you to those of you who have donated. So many of you on this call donated in 2018. We had to raise $180,000 in gap funding for the students, and you came forward and you did it, even though you'd never been to Nepal. You yourself maybe didn't even know Nepali students ever before. We are so thankful for what you came forward with. So our gratitude to you. And okay, Shashwat, would you like to say something?
Um, well, I guess it's hard to say anything to be honest, but yeah, thank you for like changing my life, changing my family's life, and the trajectory that I would have been probably otherwise. I know Krishna's probably like you've heard Krishna's story, like you're literally like your contribution, any sort, is what like kept him alive, and then that's like such a big thing. Um, but yeah, I don't really have anything to add besides just like like just like every single dollar, every single rupees or wherever the currency you're in is put into good use, as you could see from people like Krishna, and especially like I feel so privileged that I was the one speaking, but I'm sure like if you heard like other people from our cohort, that even the newest cohort speak, that you would probably be like much more emotional. And um but yeah, I just don't have words right now, so I'm so sorry. But yeah,
Okay. Sashwat, the thing that ties you and all the like I'm really glad, by the way, there's so many kids from the 2025 cohort here, because they get to see where they can end up. You know, there's a lot of 2025 kids here. You can see
um
them, like Gloria's here, Zawadi's here, um, Vanessa's here, Asam's
I mean,
here.
if they
All these
wanna
kids get to see kind of 7 years out where they can be. And that's
if
really aspirational for them. So thank
if
you.
if they want to end up at a university where the Pope went to. So I'm sure Villanova would take them. So
We're going to create, by the way, guys, like a big one of our students who is at MBZUAI, which is like a new partner for us. It's it's the world's first artificial intelligence university. It's sitting in the UAE. He created a big WhatsApp group for 2018 to 2025. So we'll send that out to all of you guys so that everybody can, and then everybody can start to help each other with like things like grad school, internships. Like we're trying to kind of increase our impact and reach and connections. So this is part of the reason why we wanted to do this, was also to kind of like bring you all together in the same room. So Preeti, I think I should probably give this back to you because it's 10:03 here in Singapore, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
No, of course, of course. No, I was thinking earlier, the world feels so hopeless at times, right? Especially now. But today's webinar, it gave me so much hope, right? I think the stories, the work you do is incredible, and I'm so, so proud of not just Shashwat and Krishna, but everybody that, that shared a little bit of their story on the chat. It's incredible. And, even from my side, I do want to thank the admission officers and everybody that's partnered with Second Chance. I think it's not just, you know, it's not easy to start something, but it also needs, you need partners and coalitions and alliances to actually make it happen. So it's, it takes a village, right? So, I think the village came through today. So, I just want to iterate before we sort of end the webinar. I just want to iterate to everybody that, whatever amount you can do to help, just pay it forward. You do, especially if you've benefited directly from that. And I also want to add one more ask with that. Everybody that's been a part of the program, you are all champions and ambassadors for the organization. So apart from donating and so on, also share on social media or wherever with your network, because your stories are so powerful, right? In terms of, there's so much grit and resilience and all of that. So I think just even sharing your experience and how Second Chance has been a part of it, I think it's so powerful. So I encourage everybody to do that. But apart from that, I just want thank everybody for your time, and please stay in touch.
Preeti, I think it's Dhanyavada, right? Or is it Dhanyavad?
Dhanyavad, yeah.
Yeah, Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad to you and to your community for being
No
here.
worries.
A huge thank you to everybody who's here. Finally, an enormous thank you to the Second Chance team. You know who you are. This program cannot exist without you. Thank you guys for building this boat. And so if you were on the team earlier, I see Lucian Giordano here, or you were the original Nepal Justice League, or you're on the current team, a huge thank you from all of us. Finally, thank you to the students who I feel like give me hope for the future. So thank you, everybody. We're going to close now. And Preeti, thank you to you. And Jason, huge thank you to you. Shashwat, Krishna, namaste, and Dhanyavad. And everybody, I want to wish you a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And students, good luck with your studies. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye bye.